Welcome to Zillennial Talks.
This is Theresa.
And this is Kyla.
And what are we supposed to say after?
And thank you for joining in. All right.
As you can see, this is our first episode.
Yes, for sure.
And it's a
lot of nerves going on right
but
now.
We're gonna get it together.
Yeah.
But we decided to work on this project just because it was something that I feel like God kind of led both of us to.
Yes.
And
definitely.
Today's episode is just getting to know us a little bit.
Yeah.
So, what did you want to start off with?
Well, my name is Kyla. I am 26 years old.
I'm 26 as well.
And Teresa, we could talk about how we met.
See, there we go, guys. I promise we prepared, but it's
sometimes you just gotta let it just
flow
go with the flow and not try to come so prepared, because sometimes it's gonna get off track. And
so we met 2020.
Yes,
we met almost 3 years ago at church, actually.
Yes.
And the way that I remember it is at the end of the church service that day, all of the newcomers were told to go to the back to meet the pastor and kind of just get to know a couple of the servants of the church and get familiarized, exchange contact information and all that type of stuff. So we went back there and we ended up, I think sitting next to each other or close to each other. I don't really remember. But they had us all sitting kind of in a circle and go around, introduce our names, and kind of either if we were in school, what we had going on. And I remember she said she had a podcast, and we were and then we're podcasters, okay, guys?
Yes.
We've had our own individual podcasts already separately. So she said that, and then we said we also had a podcast. I was with my other best friend, and we from there started
just
talking.
Connected. Yeah. And ever since then, our bond has just grown, and we're here now after 3 years, and we're doing it. And I'm so excited for this journey that God's going to take us on. And, I'm so glad that you guys are tuning in with us as well on this journey. And it's going to be a beautiful one, and God is really in this with us. We make sure that we put God first in every area of our lives.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is exciting. I'm a bit nervous, okay. Because me personally, something about me is that I am not a camera person. I don't usually like to be in front of a camera, but this is just me stepping out of my comfort zone. Yeah, I'll eventually get used to it. But this is definitely a first timer for me and new.
I think it's exciting. The way that let's talk about why we named this Zillennial Talks, and then we can get into it. Zillennial Talks is a name that I feel kind of describes where we are within the generations of society. And it kind of explains we're both 26, born in 96. I was born in 96. She was born in 97.
Yeah.
I was born towards the end of 96. And basically what that means is we're in between two generations. There's the Millennials and there's the Gen Zs, and we can identify with a lot of stuff that the Gen Zs are going through as far as social media, but part of our lives was not on social media,
right?
And I remember distinctively remembering the transition. I think back in the day, the biggest social media I can remember, and I don't even know if this is really considered, it is considered social media, was YouTube.
Mine was MySpace.
Oh, you're right. No, MySpace. I just never was allowed. I never had MySpace.
Okay. I did. I remember MySpace. We could add the little music background. That was the first time I remember social media becoming a thing.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. No, she's right. MySpace was definitely a thing. I just was lame and I did not have one. But MySpace, and then for me, I was obsessed with YouTube. I've always been obsessed with YouTube. So it was I was watching YouTube videos, YouTubers, everything, and then Vine.
I never had Vine.
A little bit later on, and I was obsessed with all of the things on Vine, specifically the dancing movements. I remember having, what was it called? TikTok bought the rights. It was Musical.ly.
I've never had Musical.ly or Vine, so I don't know about that.
I was making those little dances, what I'm saying? But I think TikTok brought out the rights to Musical.ly, so Musical.ly used to be, or TikTok used to be Musical.ly. So, anyways, we saw the transition of what social media looked like. How would you say, I'll ask you this question, how would you say social media impacted your formative years, your teen, preteen? Did it affect you? Were you aware of social media? And did it affect how you viewed beauty in the eyes of society?
Absolutely. I remember growing up, I was a kid that could be outside, play outside, had friends, didn't have a cell phone, but knew I needed to check in with my mom at certain times of the day. So as I grown older and I did have a phone, social media, I can say it actually put me in a very depressing state in my life. It had me feeling very insecure about my looks because, you know, the beauty standards of social media sometimes can impact you. And I don't think I wouldn't say, I never really, for a long time, I couldn't see like the positive side or impact that social media had on people, or especially for me in my life. What about you? I don't know if I answered your question. Like,
no, you did.
Yeah,
you
okay.
definitely did. I would say, did it the last part? Did it? What impression did it have in terms of like beauty, like what you found as like what people deemed as beautiful?
Oof. Well, I didn't think it was me. I didn't think I fit the beauty standard. Because I could
That's
say
not funny.
No, I got you. No, it's okay. Because I could say what I feel like people look at what beautiful, like what people are, what it means
people
to be.
think is beautiful.
Yeah,
yes.
but I don't want to put that out there like that, just because,
Okay, got you.
But I could just say for me, I felt like I didn't have the look, I didn't have the body, I didn't have the the fits for it, you know.
Gotcha.
And one of the other things that can impact you and people don't realize is like filters. Those beauty filters literally create this image
that you're not pretty
that you're not. Exactly.
Yeah.
So once you take that filter off, you be like,
oh my god,
I do not look like that.
Oh my god, no, seriously.
So it definitely impacted me.
Even
in a very,
guys
like,
use beauty filters.
Yeah, I've noticed
and
that.
I think that that's not attractive.
Not at all.
Like you
Especially
don't,
on TikTok, baby.
Like you don't need men. Okay, we're going into that on a side note, but
I got you. Yeah,
that's interesting that you say. Okay, so the way that it affected me. Okay, I remember going through most of high school not really like, okay, middle school is when, I think the end of middle school is when Snapchat came out. But to give you guys a little bit of background, I have very strict parents. I grew up in a very strict household. I did not get my first phone until I was like 15. I did not get a phone until I was 15. So I did not have Snapchat. I would hear about it, but I did not have it. My friends would be talking about it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. They would literally have to call my home phone.
Home phone is crazy right now. I mean, like, you're like, don't call me past this time. It's my parents might answer.
You have to call the landline.
Girl, home phones? 15? 15.
I remember giving people
It's okay.
The number to my landline, to the home phone.
Oh my god.
And I would tell them, because you know, guys, if y'all grew up with strict parents, there was different types of kids with strict parents. There was the kids that lied about the fact that their parents were strict. They tried to lie to their friends because whatever they found embarrassing. For me, wasn't embarrassing, yes. But I couldn't lie. You know what I'm saying? My friends needed to have my back. Right. So when certain situations would pop off,
right,
I was covered. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say, I would tell people, hey, you calling my landline. You know what I'm saying? So mind your P's and your Q's, because you're calling. And I ain't even gonna hold you. These are the ways that people would get a hold of me. It would be the home phone, email.
Okay.
And the best one for me though was Facebook Messenger. That's where people would like really text me because they knew that I didn't. So I would respond like on my laptop because I had a laptop, but I didn't have like a phone, which make sense or whatever. So anyway, I say all that to say I did not have a smartphone to really be present on social media like that. The social media that I was most active on, and I remember I got it exactly when I turned 13, was Facebook. And I connected with all my friends on Facebook. I would have them. I would talk to them on Facebook. That's how people could get a hold of me. And I remember it didn't really have too much of a negative influence. I used it just as a way to socialize. So I would just talk to people like outside of school. If I really like mess with you like that, that's where we would be talking. I remember though the shift happened in high school more so. And I went to high school young. I'm pretty sure you were young in high school too. I started high school at 13. So I was really young in high school. That's when it kind of shifted for me. And I remember people were really present on Twitter. Twitter used to be really big back in the days.
Never had a
Twitter. Really?
Yeah, I've never had Twitter. I never
you
had
missed
Facebook.
the Twitter movement.
I'm not.
You're not a social media person.
I'm not a social media person. So like, I guess what I'm speaking in terms of is like now, like the now, like what social media is now, which has impacted me. But when I was younger, I can kind of relate in terms of like you use it for socializing. I also use it for socializing. Right. But now it has a different impact.
I wasn't on Facebook to see what the girls were doing, what they were wearing, none of that. I literally was on Facebook to socialize, just like she said. So Twitter though was on and popping back in the day. Like people would tweet crazy things, people would go like crazy Twitter viral, like it was just dumb. So I was on Twitter, and all through my laptop, by the way, I could access.
Yeah. Laptop, not cell phone.
Just on the inside, because my first phone was not a smartphone either. Okay, so
mine was actually a flip phone.
Really? But I think that's so cool though. Yeah. I love flip phones.
And then the razors. Have you ever seen the razor phones? Yep.
Those were cute.
Those
back
were
in the
day. I wish I still
cute.
had them.
Honestly speaking, I would actually kind of rock with the flip, because I feel like the flip phone gives you power when you like close it. Like I don't want to talk to this person anymore. Let me just slam that. But quick. With iPhone, it doesn't. It's not giving
right
what it's supposed to have gave.
Right.
When you're trying to hang up on somebody. Anyway. So Twitter was the big thing, and for me in high school, that's when I started being more aware and self-conscious of my body. We're gonna get into the background of our schooling in a little bit, but to touch on that before really delving deep into that, I was always an athlete. So through middle school, through high school, I was in athletics. And I say that because there's a certain societal body image that is associated with that, is the athletic body. So I've always had that type of build throughout the course of my life. But I was always self-conscious. And I remember going into the girls' locker room, and that's when a lot of like things, because you would see other girls and they would look at you and you'd be kind of like, don't look at me, like I'm changing, like, stop looking at me, trying to cover up and everything. Right. But you know, it is what it is. Eventually you go to school every day with these people. Eventually they're going to catch a glimpse of how you look like, and they're going to make comments on it. Right. And people weren't mean to me. It's just that I was really self-conscious. And I remember it wasn't even social media that actually kind of like, how do you say, gave me the impression of what beauty was. It was the guys that I was around. I went to school in a predominantly white area. So there was only like this many Black people. And I mean like this many. Yeah. So I say that to say a lot of the guys only thought white women were beautiful. So if you weren't white, you didn't meet the beauty standard, girl. And then if it wasn't a white girl, it would be Asian. If it wasn't an Asian girl, it'd be a Latina. But the Black girls were not getting love. And I was like, girl, like it was hard out here. Yeah. Like to feel beautiful in an environment where they literally say your skin is the reason why you're not beautiful. That's really hard, right? Yeah. And then there was the whole, in my opinion, colorism thing. Yes. I don't know how that affected you, because you're light skinned. But I would think, okay, if not Black, it would be like the light skinned girls. And if it wasn't the light skinned girls, just bottom of the totem pole. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this sounds really bad, but I'm talking about my experience. All right, y'all. No, be honest. In my experience, I only found that dark skinned girls were chose, so to speak, back in my high school days, when God, guys, once again, my opinion, what I saw, when they were being sexually promiscuous. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Literally, because it would be like, okay, all of a sudden this girl's getting all this attention, and then you found out she sucked this guy off. Let's keep it real. She sucked this guy off. She did this with that guy. She did this. And for me, I was very prudent, right? People would somehow, and I think it's just part of my personality, would come to me and just like divulge information. So I knew kind of like all the tea. And people would tell me like, oh yeah, this girl was at this party and she did this, that, and the third. And that's the only reason why she's getting all this guy attention. Really mean stuff, right? This all forms your opinion. So as to where that was really difficult. And I can't imagine kids now that are 13, 14, 15, that you add what happens in school in combination what you see on social media. Right. Because social media didn't become something where I was really affected by until I was a little older, maybe 17, 18. And that's when I really started looking at social media and thinking, okay, this can be very harmful. And if I was looking at this when I was like 13, 14, I don't know how I would have even thought I was beautiful at all.
Right.
Because it takes a lot of self-love and a lot of telling yourself, no matter what you see in the world and no matter what people tell you, you are beautiful. So how was your high school experience with that type of thing?
Well, I can just speak on my transition as well. So I'm from California, the Bay Area, but my mom, Bay Area, stand up.
Stand up.
But
shout out to Kalani and Zendaya. I love them, and I know they're from the Bay Area. I just had to shout out.
That's funny. But yeah, I'm from the Bay Area, and so I grew up in a town where also it was predominantly white, and you can count on a handful how many black people were at the school. People. And same thing you experienced. You know, I didn't feel beautiful when I was like in middle school because of that exact reason. And then I want to say my 9th or 10th grade year, me and my family moved to Oklahoma, this small town in Oklahoma, Lawton, Oklahoma, and predominantly black school, colored school. So the transition,
culture shock.
Yes, very much culture shock. So I was the black girl who they thought was, oh, you think you're white because the way I talked, the way I carried myself, the way I looked. So I grew up, when I moved and I was living in Oklahoma, I experienced, like you said, culture shock, but I also experienced like I wasn't the girl that fit in. It's sad to say, but I didn't understand my people. I didn't understand my people. So with me standing out in the way that I did, it was just like people were always talking about me. People were saying things. If guys did like me, the girls didn't like me because the guys liked me. And so jealousy. I dealt with that. Yeah. Right. I dealt with a lot of jealousy, especially going to high school. I remember I would hang out with this group of girls, and then this one girl, I would hang out with her every single day. And one day she just turned on me. She completely turned on me. She threatened me. She started to bully me. And I just I put myself in this very dark place. I felt like I had no one to go to. I eventually did go to my mom because it got so bad that I felt like I just didn't want to go to school anymore. And God bless my mom. Mom, I love you so much. You have definitely like helped me in so many ways that I have probably ever told you. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that God blessed you to be my mom. Amen. My mom came up to the school. She brought flowers. She brought candy. She brought a teddy bear for the girl. So she spoke with the girl. She said, hey, we are sisters. There's no need for you guys to be in competition. You know, you guys are supposed to love on one another. It was also colorism between me and her too that occurred. Yes. Okay. So that's one reason why she flipped on me as well. And then I remember after like my mom spoke to her, she came up to me and she was like, hey, Kyla, if there's anything you ever need, I'm here for you. And from there, she would speak to me. She realized.
And yeah. To interject really quick, I don't want to cut you off, but it's so sad because, and that's why you have to give like kids grace.
Yeah.
When we're kids, when we were young like that, we didn't realize that a lot of the conflict that we were having with other women, because there's really a lot of women that are pent up against each other, is the surrounding environment and what society is feeding you. So you automatically think that girl is against you. In reality, she probably isn't.
Right.
She's just trying to figure out herself, make her, like, you know, be comfortable in her own skin, and just as you are. And somehow that clashes because I feel like society always wants to put women against each other, especially beautiful women.
Yes.
They always want to put women against each other.
Always. And so I experienced that. And so then eventually I was there for like 3 years. And then I moved here where we reside now. Texas. We are in Texas.
Dallas, Texas, baby.
So once I moved here my junior year of high school.
Oh, okay.
And so I experienced culture shock again. I wouldn't say it was the worst, but I did go through a lot. I had a lot of drama in high school. Drama that I didn't even put myself in.
Really?
It was because a guy liked me.
Oh my gosh.
And girls did not like me. But I dealt with a lot of stuff going through like my high school years. And so like for me, the transition caused me to be in a very like dark place that I didn't really feel like I knew how to express myself. I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to unless it was my mom. Very private person, like super private. People would want to hang out with me, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll take you home. No, it's good. I don't need y'all to take me. Like, I had trust issues. I didn't want
to know where you lived.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was embarrassed about a lot of things. I don't know why, but I just was. I was very protective of where I laid my head. You know, I mean, that's kind of how my mom raised me. Just be safe. You don't know who you're bringing in your home, so you need to be careful as to, you know, like, so my mom raised me to, like, just know these things, but it kind of instilled a little fear in me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think my mom, you know, genuinely thought that's what it was going to do, but
you developed a level of paranoia with people. Yes, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And nobody's known this about me. Wow. Honestly, like, I don't really. I have a hard time expressing myself sometimes. I don't know if you guys could tell, because I'm, like, really nervous. Like, right now I'm having a hard time expressing because I'm really nervous right now.
But you're opening up. That's so beautiful.
But I did experience that a lot. And I had trust issues, you know. And then it just led to other things. And then, like you said, when social media came around, it really put me in a place of just depression, insecurities, not being able to trust people, being scared to step outside sometimes, being scared to even doing what we're doing now due to fear.
The process to get here, it wasn't too difficult of a process, but I feel like the enemy really tried it.
Yeah.
I'll just put it like
that. Oh yeah, the enemy
tried it.
God kept us, I'm telling you. But trust me, the enemy tried to step in and break this.
A couple of times.
Yeah. But we kept going, you know, and I'm just, right now, I can just say that I have realized my growth by God's grace. And I realized even back then, when all that was happening, that God kept his hands on me, and he was showing me how bright my light really was when I was in those situations. Yes. And how sometimes you don't even have to be the problem, but sometimes because you shine so bright and your light is so bright, and people can see that, whether they like you or they don't like you, people can really see that, and people will gravitate to it, or sometimes people will try to tear you down. And, like, I've realized that now at my 26 years of age.
It takes time to get there.
And I'm still learning. I mean, we're going to be learning every day of our lives. So, you know, I hope I'm on topic still. I'm all over the place.
No, you're good, girl. They're trying to get to know us. Period.
Yeah, I know. So, you know, we're going to be learning every day of our lives. And I'm just so grateful where I am today, and that I'm actually doing this, even though I'm nervous.
No, I'm
just so grateful that we're here, and, like, through our test too that we went through together. You know, I'm just glad that we continue to push forward and pursue this. It just shows what kind of women we are. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I mean, we're here, and I'm grateful.
Well, I'm glad that everything you went through just made you stronger, and I think the same thing for me. I think people don't understand, like, we're still very young. We're 26, like we've said. But a lot of the things that happen in your childhood shapes everything. Yes. I think that, if not, it shapes the majority of the rest of your life. What happens in your childhood, and that's what people say the inner child comes into play.
Yes.
Which is, I think, a psychological term, and that just means whatever you repress, whatever you experience, whatever trauma you harbored from childhood, some way, shape, or form, it can come back out.
Right. And sometimes, like, for me, I'm not gonna lie, I had a great childhood. My mom made sure I had a great childhood. She really did. But, like, you know, she couldn't help that I went to school and I had to go through different things and experience.
You can't control every environment.
You cannot. But I think a lot of times we like to, like, push things under the rug, and we're trying to figure out, like, why am I this way? Why am I acting this way? Why am I so angry? Why am I so upset? And a lot of people don't realize that it does stem, the root is from their childhood or things they experience. It may not be your parents. It just may be people you've come across in your life that have attached certain things onto you that you have not let go of.
Exactly.
And that's when it's so important that you give it to God and you allow him to move, and you cast all your burdens on him, because literally that's what has helped me with almost everything in my entire life, is going to God in prayer and becoming so intentional about my prayer life and in my relationship with God. And I know people are like, oh, it's so cliche. Everyone says, oh, go to God. But I'm telling you, I was once there too. When people would tell me that, I'm like, please, like, I don't want to hear that.
It really does. It helps everything. Something that just popped into my brain. That's why I feel like there is a distinction between myself and Kay with Gen Z all the way, or even the generation after Gen Z, which I think is like Generation Alpha or something. Something that, like, is big. I'm a teacher. I work with kids, and she also works with kids as well.
Yes.
And think something that I discussed actually with my students is the desensitization that has been literally been embedded within this generation because of social media. You can hop on YouTube, hop on Facebook, hop on TikTok, hop on Instagram, and see somebody getting killed, shot, murdered, right? You when school shootings happen, there's people that are recording live, right? Yep. So you're seeing things real time, and what it does to the brain psychologically is it messes you up. I remember being in a bubble, and I don't know if you remember this, but I'm going to ask you. I remember being in a bubble when I was in school as a kid, and I never thought about mass shootings. I never had a fear that when I went to school, I was going to get shot up. These kids nowadays, you ask them the question, I promise you, ask them, and they will tell you that's on the back of their mind all the time. Yep. And they've seen videos and they've heard stuff, and so they're fully aware to a point where it's actually uncomfortable. What I was going to ask, do you remember 9/11? I feel like this is also another generational thing. Do you remember it?
Like when it actually happened?
Yeah, like when it actually happened. No. So the reason why I say that is that most people that are in our age realm, which is why we're called Zillennials, it's a phenomenon that people say that they don't know if they actually remembered it or if they made up the memory based off of what happened
with it or what they've seen.
Yeah. I feel like I made up a memory, but I almost feel like it was real. And the memory that I had was we were in school and the whole school went on shutdown. And I remember the teacher telling us to get underneath our tables, and she was crying. And then because they used to do announcements over the loudspeaker, so it's like everyone in the school would hear who was going home, who was being called up to the front office. So the phone was nonstop ringing, and names were getting called. Your parents are here. Your parents are here. Your parents are here. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like what's happening? And my two older brothers came and got me from my classroom when we left with my father. And I don't know if I made up that memory or if it was actually a real memory because I was too young, guys. I was like 4 or 5. I don't remember 4.
I never like created a memory on that because I don't remember.
You don't remember it at all. You don't remember where you were. Wow.
No, only time I heard about it was like
later on
in life. Yeah, so it's like, where was I? I don't know.
And I bring that up to say, like, that was like a very impactful thing that happened to everyone.
Yes.
And like the schools were like, oh, what's gonna happen and things like that. But that kind of marks our generation, right?
Right.
We were young to where we don't understand the implications of like Y2K and 9/11.
Right.
But we've seen a lot of things happen in our timeline, and it's been impersonal. Like we know what textbooks were. We used to have textbooks, but then we know what iPads and laptops and the social media has transitioned. And I think that our generation has really seen that transition and got to experience both ends of being what I would say normal kids that play outside, that have a childhood, that are not stuck on their phones, to then the transition of where social media was more prominent.
Right.
Yeah,
and more now, like the kids come in and social media is just a thing, so yeah, definitely. We were able to transition, and my heart goes out to the kids today who do have to
deal with
all of that and see all of this, because it does do something to the mind. And it becomes a place where you are not able to differentiate reality from what you see on your phones all the time. Like, though what you see on your phones all the time is part of reality, at the same time, some things are not always, like, how do you say it? Some things you're seeing are not always the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like trying to
differentiate.
The truth from a lie is really hard. And so it's going to affect these kids today. It's already affecting the kids today to really figure out who they are and where they stand and where they fit in, And so, it's just really hard. And
social media is impactful. The way that I see social media now, though, is I try my best to look at it in a healthy way. I have to take breaks all the time throughout the course of the week. Like, I'll be off of Instagram, things like that, just so that I'm not, because I spend a lot of time on social media. But I see it now as a way of, it's a tool, in my opinion. I can use it to build my brand, to build our brand, to put information I would want out there, to encourage somebody, for people to see my fitness journey or whatever it is that I have going on. I use it that way, and I try not to get sucked into the image of like, what is beautiful, what is trending. The trending is beautiful, things like that.
Right.
I try not to do that anymore.
Right. So, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
You see that social media is the same, or?
I'm learning to now.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I take breaks all the time, like all the time. And even if I do have a social media, I barely post on it. I mean, now I'm kind of posting more, but for like as long as I've had it, I rarely post unless it's like about God. But as far as me and what I'm doing in my life, like I barely post about it because again, I'm a very private person, and just social media can affect me in not the best of ways sometimes. But I'm learning to manage that, and I have in some ways. So yeah.
So y'all, that's a little bit about us. This was our first episode, just kind of like introducing us and kind of going down what Zillennial means to us, why that's the name of our podcast, and kind of giving you guys a background of like what we experienced at school and just growing up in society, you know, as being, you know, Black women. That is a very particular perspective. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have anything that you guys want to get to know, please leave comments down below because we will be posting this on YouTube, of course, and TikTok. So if you guys find us on TikTok, please also leave comments. Did you have any final closing thoughts?
And just thank you for tuning in with us. You know, I really hope in some ways that this does help someone or just give somebody a better outlook on life, or just like, you know, where someone can just come and connect, you know.
Definitely.
So thank you. Yeah, like she said, leave comments below. We're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, and we're also on Anchor, and eventually we'll be on all different platforms as well.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You'll be able to get us like pretty much everywhere. So, and our name for all of our social medias across all of the boards will be Zillennialtalkspod. So that's where you can find us on everything. Okay. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a blessed rest of your day, and yeah,
God bless y'all.
God bless
Have
you
a good
guys.
one. Thank you.
Bye.